You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, your running's over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down, no matter by you. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real
Warning. This episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own two eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hey everybody, it's Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, back with Miss Morgan Baggett on episode 3 of Hashtag Justice for Bradley. And I want to thank everyone for liking and sharing and, just keeping this Bradley's case at the forefront of things, and the momentum is building. Please continue to do so. Everywhere you do a post, put hashtag Justice for Bradley. It helps us in algorithms. It helps to get it out to more people. And, the tip line 313-RLRC tip is huge. And we've got a lot of tips. It's a big old elephant, right, Morgan? First of all, hi, Morgan.
Hey, Woody, and hello, everyone else.
Yeah. Somebody did a post the other day and said that I should shut up and let you talk.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. They get that takes all kinds to make the world go round, but I got to interrupt. I have all those hours of interview and interrogation. If I don't say what's on the tip of my brain, then I'll just totally miss it and I'll forget about it. So
another thing, though, is they may be used to the way that I did the very first 4 podcasts, and they were live, and those people would occasionally ask me questions, but they just let me.
Hold on. Sorry, Morgan. Go ahead.
No problem. No, I was just saying that it may have been someone who was used to the first 4 live podcasts that I did, and the people just, they opened up and then they gave me the floor, and I didn't shut up for like an hour. One time it was like an hour and 50 minutes. But I really do appreciate the way that you are, leading this in a certain direction that we need it to go in.
Yeah. And y'all, the main thing is of course, we have all kinds of tips, and I know Morgan's been living this, right, for almost 6 years, and she has all kinds of theories and everything else, but we're going to tell the story first. Now, it doesn't mean we're not working and looking down and writing everything. I know, Morgan, you and I talked over an hour, maybe 2 hours yesterday, just on some general things, tips that have come in and different things in the story. But it's got to be worked, and for the people to be involved, more so involved than the podcast you were on before, or TikToks or anything else, they need to have the human face on Bradley and on your pain. And unfortunately, there probably is another one person in this case that's deceased also, but we'll get to that. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we are doing it remotely today, y'all. So if there's any interruptions with the weather, I think Morgan's got some bad weather or whatever, then that'll be what it'll be. We'll get it edited out and fixed up. But Morgan, just to jump right into it, we left off last week. Bradley's missing. The vehicle has been found down the road from the Shady Oaks Trailer Park, was it? Is that
Yes,
the name
sir.
of it? Shady Oaks
Yep.
Trailer Park. And I believe they even told me that they served search warrants and stuff like that.
They did supposedly, according to them. I've never. I don't know that for a fact. That's just what the sheriff's
Right,
office told me.
right,
And
right. And
I
so
don't.
let's talk about that before we get started today. Y'all, a lot of this case is going to be what was told, what's been told to Morgan from person to person. And, the state of Louisiana is a one party consent. I could be well, I am recording Morgan right now, but you can record anybody you talk to in the state of Louisiana. And you don't even have to tell them. Okay. But also, just because you don't have a recorder doesn't mean it didn't happen. And people will naturally change their stories when they get in a bind, like this one guy's about to be in a bind before we get done, hopefully on today's episode. But things that are told to you, I don't have any direct knowledge of them.
Yes, sir.
And I'm reporting what you've told me.
Yes, sir. I
Right.
thought about that. I had to kind of just examine everything and put myself in the followers' shoes, even before I had you on board. And then I just realized, I'm going to have to tell my truth and hand on the Bible what
Yeah.
I say and what I know. I don't just say it and I don't just pull it out of thin air. And I said, I'm just going to have to say my truth and trust that people trust me and that they know that I wouldn't tell lies.
Right. Well, you have no reason to. It's not like you telling
Not.
lies is going to bring Bradley back. That's not the case. Now, whether or not everybody that you've talked to has told you the truth, who knows? So all you're doing is repeating things that were told to you. And
Yes,
in
sir. Secondhand
the
information.
yeah, well, it's not secondhand necessarily if this person's telling you, "Hey, I was there at or I interviewed this person and this is what they said." That's not secondhand knowledge. That's direct knowledge from that person.
Yes,
See
sir.
the, see the difference? We're not talking about the tips that you get off the street. Like somebody calls the tip line and says, "I think Joe Blow did it." Well, we have no proof of that. If
Yeah.
if you saw Joe Blow do it, then we can take that and use that as direct testimony of the person. So again, I totally believe you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be backing you so hard. And I also believe that we can do something with this. But back to it, when past episodes on hashtag Justice for cases I've worked, when we developed suspects,
Boom.
right,
I've waited for that chance. I didn't know. Third time's a charm.
right. Hold on one second. Keep.
Yes, sir. No problem. Do you hear that thunder going off back here?
Not really, but it's a little bit rainy.
That probably would have been the beginning of 2020.
All right. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about this infamous letter. Now, I call it the voice from the grave, and there's kind of a discrepancy. I think his mama has said that what I had said, because I assumed, and you know what they say about assuming, that Bradley did taped something to the bottom of an air conditioner vent in a hotel room. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct? And
So what I have figured out is at the time of him writing the letter that everyone does know about, he had already taped something under the AC unit of the hotel room.
okay, and regardless, whatever he taped, and we'll talk about that in a second, that underneath the hotel room, this letter that we're going to read today is dated, and it's definitely his handwriting. No question about that. His handwriting's like mine, and it's definitely dated. What, the end of August?
If I'm remembering correctly, the exact date was August
All right.
2018.
So the end of August, he's in fear enough of his life, or that something's going to happen to him, that he's written it down. At least on one occasion, that his mama says that letter, the letter we're going to read today, and what they retrieved from the motel room were two different things.
Correct. Yes.
Now let's talk about his mom, and I haven't talked to her yet, but I am going to talk to her, and I'm just doing it one step at a time. Let's talk about the hotel room first, and supposedly what was taped underneath, and what happened. What she told you, or whoever told you directly about the hotel room, what was taped under the air conditioning unit?
His mother, Tony, told me that the mother of someone associated with the sheriff's office drove her to this hotel room to retrieve whatever would have been under the air conditioning unit. They retrieve it, and then they're heading back north, and they apparently get pulled over by Vernon Parish Sheriff's Office. And I will tell you that Bradley's ex-girlfriend, or his girlfriend at the time of his disappearance, also years back did tell me this story. As we've already said, it's what time does to a memory. And then, we're digging up old bones here, and I remember things. And Chelsea, I remember vividly now her telling me that unfortunately Tony was pulled over after retrieving whatever was under the AC unit, and the sheriff's office took those things from her. Both the original letter that we knew about all along, and whatever was under the AC unit.
Okay, so the original letter is the one that we're going to read today.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
And the one that was under the AC unit, didn't she send a picture of something the other day? What that was?
It was kind of a recreation of what she says that she found under the AC unit, and what was written on it, according to Bradley's mother. It said something to the effect of Detective Misty, which he mentioned in the letter that you're going to let all of the listeners hear. And he said, call Uncle Clifford. And Uncle Clifford was someone who he was really close to and helped Bradley a lot. And he was also a former employee of the sheriff's office, now retired. But I think it was under Uncle Clifford's advice to reach out to Detective Misty. Whoever Detective Misty is, I have no idea who that is.
Okay, so back to that letter, that how did Tony is his mama, Bradley's mom, how did she come to learn of its existence, and if Bradley went missing, to go to what such and such room and retrieve a letter?
According to Bradley's mother, Tony, she had a safe at her home, and sometime after Bradley went missing, she got into the safe, found the letter that Bradley had written, and it mentioned, and I remember the line exactly. It says something to the effect of, I had taped something under the AC unit of such and such hotel room in room number such and such. And that's how Tony knew to go to the hotel and retrieve whatever was there.
Okay, and one more question on that. You said Miss Tony went to the hotel. Did you say with the mother of an employee from the sheriff's office?
Yes, that is what she has told me. Yes, sir.
Then any reason why a mom from the sheriff's office or of a deputy would take her? Were they good friends or something, or do you know?
I have no idea, Woody. It's a small town. She knows a lot of people, and I don't know.
Okay. So, Miss Tony, I know you're listening, and I am going to come. When I come, I'm going to come and sit with you. And I know you have a lot more information, but did she say why? I mean, they get stopped. She's riding with the mother of a deputy, and both of these, whatever was taped underneath the air conditioning unit, plus the letter from the safe, which we're going to read today. But did she say why they took them?
No, I do not know why they were stopped or why they took anything from them at all.
Okay. Do you know if she got a receipt for it or anything like that?
No, sir. I don't know that either.
That's okay.
I've always been thankful, though, because I think that I would know a lot less had I not ever seen the letter that I do know about.
Mm-hmm.
I would know a lot less. Like I would be so far behind than where I'm at without that. So I just thank God every single day that I at least received pictures. I never received the actual copy or a printed copy. It was pictures of the original letter. And the very first time I ever saw it, I remember thinking, my God, Bradley's handwriting was so atrocious. I said, but he's written letters to me, and he's written letters and cards to Oliver, our son. And when he takes his time, you can at least read it. It still might look like a first grader's handwriting, but you can read it. And this letter, it took me a really long time to sit down and decipher, because he wrote it in, as I said one time, a fever, such a hurry, and it was so, and you could tell that.
It appeared that way to me also, that penmanship was certainly not his concern at the time he wrote the letter. And
Yes, sir.
the one more question for you, and I'll ask Miss Tony all these also, just in case you know. Do you know if he ever told his mama he put the letter in that safe?
I don't know if he told her that, but the way it has been told to me, and I don't know why I think this or believe this, I was under the impression that he had told his uncle about putting something under the AC unit. But later down the road, much later, his uncle and his aunt talked to me about the letter, and they talked about having so much regret because Bradley was saying the things to them that he wrote in the letter. And just as we all did, unfortunately, they brushed it off as, oh, Bradley's not doing well right now. He's not making good decisions.
Yeah, he's high or whatever. Yeah.
It didn't mean much to them. And, now, just like all of us, they're looking back in hindsight, and they have a lot of regrets.
Yeah, I hate that for him, but, who's to say and who's to know, right? One more thing, the letter.
Mm-hmm.
We know law enforcement, at least according to Miss Tony, that they took it, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you're dealing with the law enforcement, and I'm going to go ahead and throw his name out there specifically for the first time. Detective Vance, who is the detective who's been on Bradley's case since the beginning. Is that correct?
Almost from the beginning, yes. There was one lead detective in the very beginning, and he had jumped ship to a neighboring parish, and that's when it landed in David Vance's hands.
Right. So what did Detective David Vance say about this letter before we read it?
The very first time I ever asked them about the letter, once I had found out about the letter, verbatim, word for word, out of his mouth, he looked me in person in the face and said, "Morgan, that letter is nothing but crackhead gibberish, and I can't make from heads or tails from that letter." Because I was asking him, are you gonna, what about the letter? He wrote a letter, you don't, nobody writes a letter like that, and then 8 weeks later you go missing and the letter doesn't mean anything. And he said, we're not going to bug the people in that letter or waste our time or resources on that letter because it's nothing but crackhead gibberish.
Crackhead
And
gibberish.
the only answer to this day that I've ever gotten out of him, or anyone for that matter associated with the sheriff's office, the letter is crackhead gibberish to them.
Crackhead gibberish. Now, for you, all y'all out there listening who've never worked a homicide, unfortunately, most homicides, 95% or more, you're not dealing with people who are not dealing or on narcotics or whatever, high risk victims, etc. I mean, you have to look at everything. You can't just read this list. Yeah, the letter it's a little bit jumbled and stuff like that, but if you take the meat out of the letter and go investigate it, especially when all the stuff we're going to tell y'all that's coming up on the future episodes, holy shit, it's a voice from the grave. But it's crackhead gibberish. I would be offended if I was missing, but of course we're going to get into it later on and how they were working as a cold case, et cetera, and then they changed it. But if I was missing and you told my wife I was a crackhead, even if I was a crackhead, you don't fucking call him a crackhead. It's crackhead gibberish, dismiss it. How about you may have missed the fucking boat here, buddy? Yeah, you may have missed a lot of the boat.
big and obvious piece of evidence that anyone with the least bit of common sense would know that it needed to be investigated. You know, I'm not a detective and I'm not in law enforcement, but I have common sense. And you know, they said, well, we're chasing every lead down. Well, obviously you're not, because you're
All right.
not even taking into consideration or willing to look into this letter.
Yeah, this blows my mind. So I think what we'll do, Morgan, is the letter's hard to read when you did. And that's one of the things. I was up all night before I took your case, before Detective David Vance really sent me over the edge later on and made me take your case, knowingly or not. The letter, it is hard to read. But so I want you to read it and you transcribe it. I was able to, no doubt about it. But then when I read, you had transcribed it and I read it, of course, you know, the bad handwriting became much clearer and I totally understood it, right?
Yeah.
And when y'all have Morgan read the letter, and then we're going to post the letter, the original letter, and we'll post a transcript, and we'll do it Patreon Convicts first, naturally, but then everybody will get it so you can see what we're talking about. Now, keep in mind that Bradley may have been on whatever. That doesn't mean people weren't out to get him, right? And it doesn't mean it's crackhead gibberish, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to do this letter first, and I've been trying to figure out how to really tell this story proper. And we're going to dive in with this, and then the next episode we'll get into a lot more stuff that's happened or not happened and stuff. So do you have the letter? All right, y'all. What I'm going to do, we have Morgan reading the letter. She did this previously on social media. I'm going to play it for you now. And again, we're going to post the original and a transcribed version to all social media. All right. And this, you'll understand at the end of it why we're calling this a voice from the grave. Okay, now remember, Morgan, when you came into possession of this, is this a long time after Bradley's been missing, correct?
It was a few months. Yeah, it
Right.
was a few months.
So and he wrote it on August 29th and he went missing on,
October 30th.
so 2 months. All right.
Yeah.
But here, all right, I'm going to play it for y'all now.
Okie dokie, people. As promised, I'm going to pre-record myself reading Bradley's letter. I went live a couple of days ago and I read the letter that Bradley wrote a couple of months before he went missing. I'm going to read it again. This video, the letter's kind of lengthy. It's kind of hard to get through. As I've explained before, Bradley's handwriting was atrocious, and it took sitting down. He could write pretty well if he wrote slow and took his time. It was legible. He seemed to have written this letter very quickly, in a rush, and it was so hard to read. It was so hard to read. So this video is the letter only. I'm going to read through the letter, and hopefully a whole bunch of you guys can see it, and sometime really, really soon I can go live again and maybe read the letter again, and we'll discuss the letter some more. Reading this letter out loud was something I should have did a lot sooner, so I'm going to quit rambling. I always do that. I'm so sorry. I know it sounds like a broken record, but here we go. All right, Bradley Straysener's letter. August 24th, 2019. Saturday, Mom's apartment. This morning I woke up to my girlfriend Chelsea screaming at me for getting the sudden link bill money, $100, which she told me I could use over the phone on my lunch break Wednesday. Why she did that, I don't know, but I believe she was recording it because her phone was in her hand, and she also said she was. I believe it relevant only because she said she was going to call the cops, and soon after, for no reason, I didn't call or arrange it, but a guy from work pulls up to pick me up and for work an hour early. This is also out of his way to do this. I used his phone around 7:30 a.m. to call my Uncle Clifford to get Misty Bryant's cell number to talk to her about Ron West, who my girlfriend was cheating on me with. I called her right after on the same phone, but deleted the call and had told her that I would buy a phone later in the evening to call her back. and speak to her in more detail. Some very odd things happened afterwards. I said, "Hey, good morning," to my boss, Bill English. He completely ignored me. Soon after, I asked him what he wanted me to do, and he ignored me again. And I know that I spoke loud and clear, and I felt he was pissed off at me for some reason. Mr. Vander, my girlfriend's landlord, also Bill English's friend, showed up, and Bill called me in, and I was told he was paying $150 to Vander out of my paycheck for the week. It was a check I didn't get the receipt for or get to see the actual amount on. Next, he insists on moving my storage unit on the other side of where it's at. Note, this is the second time he insists we go do this. He insists on ... Guy, and as I explained in I'm going to just stop and interrupt. He mentions Guy. I think that is a person. He's not just randomly calling some guy. And later on, he mentions somebody named Bobby Boycher, whose name is Bobby Guy Boycher. I have no idea if he's talking about Bobby Guy or another person named Guy. That's a mystery that I haven't solved yet. Guy, who stole his briefcase, who also works for him now, he said, he insists on him taking me to lunch. We go to Sonic, and Kevin shows up beside us and asks to borrow my lighter. Blue Bic that was in my toolbox. Saturday, after Guy has it with him, Kevin does not smoke, and he left with my lighter, ? When we get back to the shop, Guy insists that I sit in the car and not in the dirty shop to eat. I do. His phone is in the car. 15 minutes later, he comes back out and sits in the car and says, "When we get back, you should wash your hands and use my pocket knife to clean your fingernails." I got out, left the job, went across the road to America's Best Value Inn, and rented room 106. Then I see Daryl K. on the log and Danny K.'s car in the parking lot, and his room is 122 on the logbook. I find it really weird that these things happened. Weirder that he's there because, surprisingly, I happen to know that he's planning to burn or have burned his house for insurance money because he had wanted me to do some work on the back two doors where the frame was rattled out from moisture, and he wanted to have the insurance claimed on the job and give me half of what I quoted him on it. He said it had burned, and later I asked him, and he said he wasn't going to do it, and then my mom tells me it burned before it actually did. Jason on Highway 10 tells me he was there, and I asked him, did he see how bad it was? And he says, "What?" So I said it burned, but come to find out, it was 2 days before it actually burned down. And Danny shows up soon after and gives me a ride to Chelsea's in Rose Pine and said they were leaving. I believe Sunday before it burned, him and Bobby were in his car with clothes and stuff. Friday after it burned, as soon as I left Beauregard Transmission and went across the street to the motel, Danny is then in room 122. I moved to 121. I tried, but the lady up front at the desk says the room is broken and has me sign a receipt. Gary, his wife, Bobby Boycher, and Danny's girlfriend all came by while I'm there and talked about the fire and getting investigated. They mentioned taking Danny to Skipper's Inn and said that the room was paid for. My boss has been mentioning that I could get a room at Skipper's Inn all week because I had been telling him I needed to move because I was separating with Chelsea. He said it would be closer to work since I have no vehicle, but the motel Best Value Inn was actually across the road when Skipper's is actually 2 or 3 miles down from the job. I find it really odd that I know Danny had his house burned. He knows I said it did before it actually did. The guys at work has been asking to buy rugs repeatedly, comes to Sonic, asks to borrow my lighter when he doesn't even smoke and leaves with it. The other guy insisting that I come in the shop after eating and wash my hands really good and use his pocket knife to clean my fingernails. The day I told Mr. English I might talk to a detective about busting someone for rugs, I felt like he got pissed. He told me that people get KILLED for doing that. I went to Bill's other good friend, Glenn Dean, who told me before if I ever needed anything to come to him. I did, and after telling him, his wife said, "Shut my mouth and go back to work." Mr. Dean says, okay, I missed something. "Shut my mouth, go back to work, and all will be fine." And Mr. Dean says, "I got one more call to make, and so I left." I left something stuck to the bottom of AC unit in 106. Lately, it's felt like they were trying to set me up because of all the things they were asking me to do, what they took from me, and the misunderstanding about why I was talking to a detective. I write, you guys, this is how Bradley ended this letter. All of this because I am worried. It's what he wrote on October 24th, 2019. This is the letter. This obviously is not the original hand.
All right. October 24th, 2019?
Nope, I said that wrong, Woody. It's stated August.
August 29th.
Yeah.
But it's Bradley. He wrote it because he's worried. And you can call crackhead, you can say whatever you want to. Holy shit. There's a lot of things that could be inferred or not inferred or whatever, but I'm going to let you talk first and then I'll come in.
Listening to myself read that out loud is really difficult because I knew Bradley so well and I put myself in his shoes, and Bradley wasn't a scared guy. He was, when I was with Bradley, he was strong and physically strong and strong-headed, and he had a good heart. He made some bad decisions, but he drew a line when it come to some things. And I think everything that was going on in that letter was one of the places where he drew a line. And I think he was scared. I think he was trying to help. I think he was trying to stop something bad from happening. But what I want to say to everyone mostly is a few things. The arson, the burning of the house that he mentions, did in fact happen. It absolutely happened. Danny Kaye's home burned, and there were about 5 people arrested for it. At least 2 of them mentioned in the letter were arrested for it, including Danny Kaye. So Bradley writes the letter in August, at the very end of August. These people are arrested sometime in September. Bradley goes missing at the end of October. That arson, that house fire, it happened. People were arrested. 1 person did serve time for that. The other thing, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
There's 2 different business owners mentioned in that letter. I don't know what you'll do with this, Woody. You might keep it in. You might.
I'm gonna leave it in there. That's the letter. I mean, I don't know those people, but it's what Bradley wrote in the letter.
Yeah.
It's not on me. It's not on you.
This was my experience. This was my experience with 2 people in the letter.
Why don't we say that until we talk about it before the next episode? So make sure we don't go in any gray area on that. Okay, I don't want you to get in any kind of trouble, because I'm not saying that what you feeling or took away from the conversations aren't correct. But let's we got to look at it, unfortunately, from a legal angle.
I understand.
But he is talking about an arson in this letter that he believed had already occurred, and he found out it hadn't occurred, correct?
That's what it sounded like in the letter. Everybody's telling him, the house is burned, but he found out that it hadn't. Like, it was a couple of days before it actually had, which I don't understand. I don't have the piece to that puzzle, but that's what he said.
You do have another piece, and we'll go ahead and allude to it now without saying a name. Tell me about your knowledge, someone telling you that a certain person had belongings of this Danny Kaye in their house from his house before it burned.
Yeah, I can talk about that. That's also really difficult, but I can talk what I was told. In fact, one person who was arrested for that arson, whether they were involved or not, told me that Bradley's mother, Tony, had special and significant items in her home from Danny Kaye's house, and I this is just a piece of information that someone has given me, and this person is clean, sober. They've turned their life completely around. I have no reason not to believe them, and this is somebody who the followers may hear from at some point in time. Who knows?
That's right. But did they say the items were in the house before the house burned?
Yeah, so the items were in Danny Kaye's house, and then apparently they ended up in Bradley's mother's house, and he was storing these items there because he didn't want them to burn in the fire.
That's right. So what I'm asking you is this person alludes to the fact that these items were moved to this other location before the arson happened. Right?
Yes, to ensure that they didn't burn up in the house. Correct.
Okay, well, I mean, can't get much clearer than that. And this person you said was in fact arrested as part of this arson.
She was, and she tells me about that, and you and I both know that we have that on recording, and she tells us about that.
Mm-hmm. So y'all, I'm scratching the tip of the iceberg line. We're not throwing shade on Bradley's mama or anyone else. We're talking about simply something that was related to you by this person who was arrested as part of the arson. And now back to the letter, the voice in the grave. You would wonder why, especially when you're reading it and it's really, really messy. And I'm thinking, why the lighter? Why is the guy at the bar a lighter? Well, if you're going to leave a lighter at the scene with DNA on it, of course, I'm speculating, I'm just thinking out loud. If you want to leave a lighter on a scene, or whatever, maybe that's what Bradley was thinking. That holy shit, he borrowed my lighter. He went to the point of saying he had to get it out of his toolbox for the guy to use it, and he never gave it back to him. The part about cleaning your fingernails. On my pocket knife, what's under your fingernails?
Lots of dirt, lots of grime, lots of DNA.
DNA. Yeah, DNA. And this is all. Do you know the exact date that the house burned?
I don't. I wish that's something I would have gotten before we started.
Okay, we'll get it before the next episode. But I mean, it's a matter of public record. People have been arrested. This house was arson, just like Bradley said in the letter.
Yeah, there's actually a post from the marshal, like the state marshal or something.
State fire marshal.
Particular fire.
And can you just summarize it for me?
It's just, it's very matter of fact, that how an arson house was burnt and that it's under investigation. And then later there's more articles about the arrests. And I think it was 4 people being arrested, and then they were looking and waiting for a 5th suspect. And that 5th suspect was later arrested, and he's the one who ended up serving the most time for that arson.
So let's talk about it real quick. Investigation wise, you don't just roll up and get lucky on an arson. Unless you catch an MFer in the act pouring gas on the thing and lighting it, that means somebody ratted. That's a fact. And somebody ratted. And there's enough information for the fire marshals, investigators. And Butch Brown used to be head of that office, and one of my dear longtime friends who retired from the state police went over there as a criminal investigator. But they had to get a tip, right? Just like we're getting tips at 313 RRC tip on what happened to Bradley. But they had to get a tip. Now, you get a tip, then investigators run those tips down. That's what we do. And until you get off of it, or you can't get off of it, and it leads to other tips. And you know what? If you burn down your own house, and loose lips sink ships. And if you're looking at prison time because somebody's ratting, what do they say? Snitches get ditches.
Yeah.
That's y'all. Just marinate on that for a minute. And that is one little bitty piece of this puzzle. That is nothing. But I'm going to tell you what it isn't is crackhead gibberish. Okay? So in this letter that comes out of the safe, he alludes to the part about taping whatever underneath the air conditioner vent. We don't know if Miss Tony got it or whatever. I'll ask her if she's still willing to talk to me. And we don't know why, if it even happened. But she told you, correct, that sheriff's office stopped him and took the stuff?
Yes, her and Chelsea both at one point in time told me that same story. And
Vernon Parish Sheriff's Office stopped them when they left the room, took the letter. I'm sure they probably told him. If it happened, I'd be like, what are y'all doing? They'd be like, oh, my son's missing, da-da-da. He said if something happened to him, there'd be a letter underneath the room, which the only way she would have known that is because of this letter, the one that she found in the safe. So they go and get it, and if she's telling the truth, then when they leave, they get stopped by Vernon Parish Sheriff's Office, and they seize these letters from them. If that's true, man, something stinks. I mean, it just does. I'm not calling them out because I don't know, but I'm gonna tell you one thing. I'm gonna be digging into it. And you can't take shit off of people. You got to give them receipts. And I mean, it may have been investigators or whatever, or they may not be telling the truth. I don't know which way it is, but I damn well know this arson happened, and I damn well know that Bradley knew about it before it happened, and then it happens, and investigators just don't get lucky and find out who the fuck burned their own house down without somebody ratting. Your shit, you don't take your most prized possessions out of a house before it burns. And then you claim insurance money. What is the sense of that? There is none. I understand you can go in sometimes and recover items that are smoke logged or water damaged from when they're putting out the fire and what have you. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, they're talking about specific high dollar items he wants to save that are in this other location before the house burns. And we know it. We're not making it up. The house burned, right? And it's arson. People went to jail. That alone is motive.
The fact that he wrote about it and it happened. It happened after he wrote about it,
Absolutely.
But one unfortunate scenario that I can't help but think about and hope for is that at that time, Tony still trusted Vernon Parish Sheriff's Office, and I did too. So maybe she offered it up to them. Maybe they didn't.
Hey, well, I guarantee you, if if you stop me and that's what I was doing, I was like, hell, I went to get a thing from underneath the thing from a kid, and the Vernon Parish Sheriff's Office is like, okay, great, let me turn that into the detectives. Yeah, everybody wants to believe in a law enforcement. I believe Blue. I believe him in 1,000,000%. I'd have given it up, but I wouldn't have given it up without a receipt. And thank God she at least took pictures of the letter that you just read off your Facebook or whatever we just played. And then I saw it today, not today. I saw it since the tip line opened, the other thing that she described that was underneath the air conditioner vent. All right, she re-described it. But obviously, she's not in possession of it anymore. So but here's the thing: we're not. This is even the beginning. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, there is so much more to the story. This is one out of 1,000 things we're looking at. Okay, but fuck me if that's crackhead gibberish. 2 months, just 2 months or a month, September, October, 2 months and a day before he goes missing, and right after people get arrested. Don't you think I've played the trick on people so many times when I got them in interrogation room, like, bitch, I got your ass. You want to sit there and say, no, I don't know anything about it? Well, fuck you, because I got a motherfucker that told me everything. I'll get in their ass, right? Because I'm getting the juice. And then when it comes down to it, I'll burn that motherfucker that told me. I'll be like, yep, well, you know who it was? Boom, and say the name, and they're like, my ass going to prison, so I better confess. And the only way I'm going to get a reduced sentence is to give up these other people's names. So 5 people get arrested in the end, and one serves more time than everyone else.
Yeah.
Somebody snitched, a whole bunch of them snitched, but that's not even the main focus. on hashtag Justice for Bradley. That certainly is a huge angle to be looked at, and we're going to be looking. But the wait, y'all, this story has so much more to it, including, and this is the part I don't want to get into yet. People are making posts about it, and I get that. But I don't want to lump everything too fast together. But there is another young lady who is, law enforcement is saying she overdosed. We have evidence that says otherwise, but we're going to end this episode with this. Okay, this young lady, and you correct me if I'm wrong. You were told this by Detective David Vance, correct? Now, I'm skipping ahead on a lot of stuff in the investigation, but I want y'all to be interested. This is something, but it ain't everything. It's not even close to everything. Detective David Vance told you this young lady said what, and then I'm going to end it. I'm not going to say anything that's about speculations on anything other than when she's found dead. What did Detective David Vance calls you in the office and says what?
Basically, without describing the whole long thing, which I don't know if you want me to, but you can.
I want you to say exactly what she said, not how it was, whatever. What exactly what she said happened to Bradley.
Okay. Yeah. We can if I leave, I'm on the spot. I didn't realize we was doing that now, but that's okay. If I leave anything out, we can cover it later. So summer of 2023. Excuse me, July exactly 2023. I received a Facebook message on Messenger from David Vance. I did have a different
Detective David Vance, Vernon Parish Sheriff's Office, Cliffhanger Man.
Okay. Cliffhanger Man, correct. As one person from this parish called him Deputy Vance, which I don't know why, that just tickled me to death. That was just a little mean jab, but
you get the Facebook message and it says what?
That he says, "Hey, can you call me?" And I hadn't heard from him in a while, so I was like, yeah. So I called him immediately. And if my memory serves me correctly, and I could look back and make sure, July 11th was the date that I received that message.
Hey, and I'm not going to boom this out, Cindy. Don't take it out. Just pop in my head. When you tell this story, don't say the names. Say the initials of the people that the young lady said about. Okay, and we'll get back into that because we don't have to make it real long. Detective Vance calls you, or y'all get on the phone, and what happens?
He says, "Hey, I've got some information that I want to tell you." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "No, in person." And he says, when can you come meet me? And I can't remember if I met him that day for lunch or the following day, but it was no longer than the next day. I was at work and had to ask permission for my boss and whatnot, and I went as soon as I could. And I show up to the sheriff's office. I walk inside. He leads me down the hall, and we go into his office, and he closes the door. And I sit down, and he proceeds to tell me he never once told me the female's name. Not then. He said, "We have a female in our custody. She says that she is an eyewitness to Bradley's murder." And he told me beforehand she passed the polygraph test, and what she is saying so far is checking out.
Well, you know what? Well, let's stop it right there. We need it for next week. But he brings you in, and we're going to pick this up. Believe me, it'll be first thing. He brings you in, and the lady's name is already out, but for this episode, we want to do it. And he's saying he's not going to tell you the name at the time. He brings you in, says, "We have a lady in custody. She says she was there, witnessed it basically, and she's passed the polygraph."
Yes,
right.
That's
and I'm going to summarize it for you because I don't want to give away too much before next week. She describes Bradley being dead. Is that correct?
Yes, she does.
She describes who was there. Is that correct?
Yes, she does. According to David Vance.
Yeah,
yes.
Well, fuck, he's law enforcement. He's the one that interviewed her, and they polygraphed it. Hey, Detective Vance, maybe you shouldn't have told her all this. but we're going to put it out there. And according to Detective Vance, this is what the man told you. This detective for the Vernon Parish Sheriff's Office is telling you this, correct?
Yes, sir.
She describes after she sees him dead. She describes in detail where they go and what they did with his body. Is that correct?
Yes.
This is coming from a Detective David Vance, Vernon Parish Sheriff's Office. Out of his mouth of babes, him to you, and you're in his office. Correct?
Yes.
That's all I got to say today, y'all. And this story has so many twists and turns on it. He said it. He said she passed a polygraph. And he said this is what happened. And well, guess what? We're going to bring you some more information on the same thing. We're going to tell you everything, but then we're going to bring you some more information that's coming through tips and Morgan and everything else. In another perspective, the same thing, basically the same thing that Detective Vance is saying, but just a little bit different on some minute details. But wait a minute, you know what? Fuck that. They can wait. Detective David Vance can wait. Not meaning you lifers. I don't want to make you wait, but when we go too long, people lose interest. I really want them to hear this part of the story, but we need to set it up for next week, right?
We may need to do #cliffhanger at this point, Woody.
You know what? I think I'll start adding that to my TikToks. So, Morgan, I know it's tough for you, sweetie. I really do. And it really breaks my heart. And it's tough. You got a baby. You got babies at home now. And I thank you for getting on with me today. Thank you for putting your trust in me. And thank you for understanding. I know that I'm hard for you. I'm hard for anyone to deal with. But I'm hard for you to deal with because you're a raging bull and you're ready to run. I have a plan. And I thank you for getting that and respecting that. And the lifers are backing you. You can already see it in the comments and everything else, and people are getting invested more and more every day. And we're going to tell this story. The voice from the grave was today, and now we're ending it with an eyewitness to what happened to Bradley.
Yeah, that my hair standing up.
Yeah, Bradley was murdered. I'm going to tell you what happened. Bradley was murdered, okay? And then we'll get into the rest of it. But thank you so much. Y'all, please, #justice for Bradley. Everywhere you can leave a comment. Go look, do my TikTok things, whatever I'm posting on there. I answer every single person there. Go to the Real Life Real Crime Community app. It's in the App Store. Download it for free. Go watch these videos on YouTube a couple of days after the regular episodes come out. If that's your jam, that's your pleasure. Or download Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, anywhere you can get a podcast. And people will always comment, Morgan, like, this costs money. No, it doesn't. You can listen to it for free. Anywhere in the world, you can download a podcast or YouTube. It's free, but you're going to have commercials. Our Patreon and convicts get the commercial-free early releases and all the other bonus stuff. But, Morgan, thank you so much. I'm on the edge of my seat, right? And you did a great job. Lifers, we love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. And Morgan, you want to say anything real quick before we go?
No, sir. Just as usual, I appreciate you and so much. You know, your lifers too. I didn't understand the concept of your followers and you calling them lifers and the support that they were going to bring, but I'm just super appreciative of you and Miss Cindy and your lifers.
Yeah, the lifers are your lifers now too. Every one of them, every case I've ever worked, when they get emotionally involved, they're going to ride or die. And they're the best fans in the world. And I've always said that, and I'll continue to say that. But thank you so much for being here, sweetie. Everybody, I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime podcast. Until next time or ever, don't let me catch you down on Murder by You. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, you running's over, that's for sure.
This episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own two eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you.